Why is it that the idea of moving brings up so many feelings, even when you're not sure you actually want to move yet? If you've ever caught yourself thinking, I don't know why this feels like so much, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. This is one of those topics where there isn't really a single right answer for everybody, but it is something that a lot of women over 50 quietly wonder about, especially when they've lived in one place for a long time. And what I want to do with this video is talk you through why this can feel so emotional. Not to fix it and not to push you into a decision, but to help you understand what might be underneath that feeling. Because once you understand that part, well, everything gets a little clearer. And as you're listening, I want you to notice what parts of this sound familiar to you. You don't need to have answers, just notice what's resonating. And if something comes up for you as you're watching, I'd really love to hear what you're thinking. A lot of women learn from seeing that they're not the only ones having these feelings or these thoughts. Before we talk about houses or belongings, we need to talk about something bigger, because most of the emotion around moving has very little to do with the move itself. And that's where we're going to start. It's change. It's the memories, the identity, the timing. And when all those show up together, boy, it can feel bigger than you expected, even if on the surface, you're just thinking about your options. For some women, it's the realization that life looks different than it used to, or different than they had planned. And for others, it's noticing how much history is tied up in one place. And for many, it's that quiet question of, what's next for me? None of this is about square footage. As I'm saying this, you might already know which part is hitting closest to home for you. Is it the memories, the unknown that comes with change, or the timing? You don't need to answer that right now, just notice it. I think a lot of women are surprised by these feelings because they see themselves as capable, practical, grounded. And so when emotion shows up, they wonder if something's wrong. And it isn't. This is just what happens when you've lived a full life in one place and you're thoughtful about what you want to see next. Once you understand that, another layer shows up, especially for women who've been in the same home for a long time. And it's not about the house or the space or the move. It's about what the home represents. And that's what we're talking about next. Now, once you realize that moving brings up more than logistics, another layer often comes into focus. You know, for many of us, the home isn't just where we live, it's where responsibility lives. A home can hold a memory, but it can also hold roles. Were you a caregiver, the daughter, the sister, the wife, the mother, the one who stayed, the one who handled things? And when you've been that person for a long time, even thinking about moving can feel loaded. You know, I worked with a woman named Sandra years ago who bought her first home in Inglewood. At the time, she was a widow, and she had her uncle come and live with her in a basement apartment. Now, when her uncle passed, we sold that home, and Sandra moved in with her 90-year-old mom in Denver to help care for her since a lot of her siblings lived out of state. Funny enough, the mom was still in the same family home in Denver where all the now adult kids had grown up. A few years later, when her mom passed, Sandra and her brothers called me to help me sell that home as well. And this time, this move was going to be just about Sandra. We found her a lovely townhome where she could be closer to her grandson and be part of his day-to-day life. When I think about Sandra, I don't think about how many times she moved. I think about how each move reflected a different season of her life and a different way of showing up for the people she loved. None of these moves were just about real estate. They were about responsibilities shifting. As you listen to that, you might recognize pieces of yourself. Maybe you've been the one who stayed close, or the one who took care of things, or the one who adjusted when life changed. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. I see this especially with women over 50 who are moving solo. They've handled a lot. They've shown up for other people. And now they're at a point where this next chapter isn't defined by somebody else's needs. That can feel freeing and unsettling at the same time. And that tension alone can bring up emotion, not because you're unsure, but because you're thoughtful. And that's where the next layer of this conversation takes us. Because here's another thing that adds weight to this decision. It's not just memories, it's identity and connection. A home becomes part of how you see yourself, the routines you count on, the people and places that are familiar. Where you live isn't just your address, it's that coffee shop you don't have to think about, the walking route that you know by heart, the grocery store where you know exactly where everything is. It's comfort, it's rhythm, it's familiarity. So when you think about moving, part of what you're reacting to is the idea of letting go of a life that feels known, even if you're open to something new. That doesn't mean you shouldn't move. It just explains why the thought of it feels so emotional. When you start thinking about change in your identity, in your surroundings, in your house, it can feel like you're losing more than just a building. It can feel like you're losing a part of your world. As you're watching this, I'm curious, what part of moving do you think brings up the most emotion for you? Is it the memories, the responsibilities you've carried, the change in how you see yourself or the thought of leaving what's familiar? If you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to hear it in the comments. A lot of women find it helpful to see that they're not the only ones feeling this way. If this video feels a little slow or a little more reflective, that's intentional. This isn't something to rush, and there's nothing wrong with you for feeling emotional about it. Moving is rarely just a real estate decision, especially after 50. It's a life decision. As we head into a new year, you don't have to have clarity yet. If this topic has been sitting with you or showing up when things get quiet, that's worth noticing. Sometimes the most important step isn't deciding what's next, it's understanding why something feels the way it does. Hi, my name's Peggy Dursthoff with Live Denver Suburbs, powered by HomeSmart, and I help women over 50 make smart housing decisions on their own without pressure, confusion, or costly mistakes. If this conversation was helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe. I share videos every week to help you through downsizing, letting go, and moving without regret at your own pace. And if you want to keep going, I'll link another video over here that many women find helpful as they start sorting through their stuff and the emotions that brings up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.